Whether you're dreaming of becoming a lead teacher, stepping into your first director role, or leading a thriving childcare program of your own, you don't have to figure it out alone. Welcome to the Childcare Director's Chair, where leadership coach, speaker, co-author, and multi-center owner Erica Sacoccio shares the wisdom she's gained from decades of leading successful early childhood programs and developing future leaders. Each episode is designed to help you use your voice, lead with confidence, build a positive workplace culture, and become the kind of leader your team is excited to follow. Expect real talk, big laughs, bold leadership truth, practical strategies, and the encouragement to believe in yourself every step of the way. Because when Erica teaches leadership, she's teaching what she's lived. The Child Care Director's Chair is proudly sponsored by WatchMeGrow, supporting childcare leaders with innovative technology that helps build stronger programs and stronger family connections. Together, they believe leadership isn't a title, it's an action. Pull up your chair, future leader. Here's Erica Sacoccio.
Hey guys, it's Erica here with the Child Care Director's Chair podcast. We are so excited you are here today. We have a great guest, as always. You know, this is the show with the great guests. So I'd like to introduce you. Actually, before we even do that, I'm going to say this to you. I'm going to ask you, maybe even just tell you, do you know how many educators are out there that continually work while signs about their health and their health is suffering? You know, I know because I was one of them. I put the center first. I put the staff first, the families, everyone else's needs before my own. And I know you know what I'm talking about. I just kept showing up. I kept pushing through. I kept telling myself I would slow down later until my body decided for me. So if you don't know my story, that's okay. Stay tuned in because we'll talk about it today with our guest. We are joined with Dr. Yvette Ledford. She's also an author of The Teacher by Day, The No Guilt Guide to Setting Boundaries. Boy, do we need some information about that. We'll talk about what happens when dedicated folks end up becoming to a point where sometimes we're almost self-neglectful, and why educators feel guilty when we're trying to protect our health and we're not really great at setting those boundaries. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that and how to do it without always having to apologize. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. So my friends, I know this is a topic we have talked about here and there, but we're gonna talk a little bit more today. Can you tell folks a little bit about yourself and how you ended up here in your journey of realizing, wow, if I'm not really paying attention to the signs, I could become one of those statistics?
Well, I will tell you that I have a nurturing spirit, like a lot of women in the world. And so this is one of those professions that will, use that. That's a gift of yours, right? We're in a nurturing profession and we love what we do. And I just was pouring and pouring and pouring into my littles. And, I don't even think I even thought about it because I'm just trying to fill a need, right? Kids need to learn how to read. Kids need to learn how to use mathematics. Kids need to learn life skills. Sometimes kids don't have things. So then I'm going to the store and getting materials out of my own money. And then slowly, I think it just started piling up. And I went through a very unfortunate experience in my life and went through divorce. And I remember during that time where I was really emotionally drained, I started to look around at some other areas of my life and realized that several cups were empty because I was constantly pouring in. And that's when I truly realized, girl, you better take a pause and figure out what's going on because your emotions are everywhere and you're not as joyful as you would like to be. A lot of times I was putting it into the classroom and then going home and being just tired. I'm drained. I've given everything to my principal's needs. I've given everything to these 25 kids or more sometimes, depending on the school year in the classroom. I'm mama, I'm counselor, I'm everybody. But who is pouring into me? And so, it was at that moment that I had to take a pause and realize, girl, you need to set up some boundaries because you still love what you do. And in order to protect that and be more effective, you got to be a whole person. If you want to teach the whole child too, you got to be a whole person.
Yeah. What do you think? Well, actually, could you share, before we move on, can you share maybe what happened in your personal or professional journey that made you realize that I really need to write this book of Teacher by Day?
Wow, I'm glad you said that. So this book is near and dear to my heart. Near and dear to my heart, right? So if you even think about the title alone, right? Because I spent a while, like what do I need this title to be so that educators can get it like instantly? Like this is what this is about. It's called Teacher by Day because most of the time I was a teacher at night too. I wasn't clocking out. You know what I mean? It was like
24/7.
24/7 you know what I mean? Like, teacher
That's your
24/7,
sequel.
365, and I was like, "No." So, teacher by day, I gotta remind myself this is a day job. And, the subtitle is a no guilt guide, no guilt guide to boundaries, balance, and bliss. And so really that was all about me wanting to share with others. I had found my peace and my joy in a way to balance all of it without being drained. I can be my whole self, teach, clock out, and still not feel guilty about living my life, and my cup is overflowing. But why not also share that with the professionals that I work with every day? So then I was doing it that way, professional development, talking to people personally. Then I was like, wait a minute, many millions of educators are in the world? This can't work. And so that's when I was like, let me just do this. And I did every day after work. I had I made a schedule. I was like, here's what I want to say, made my outline, here's what do I want to tell educators so they can free themselves from the cycle of burning out. And
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great strategy for sure. You can reach a lot more people outside your circle of influence. Huh. Did you have anybody in mind when you were writing the book? And was it just educators in general? You were just like, I'm seeing it, I'm feeling it.
It really morphed, right? So I'm an educator. I'm also a mother, female, man, I'm a woman. So I'm definitely coming from those lens. And I've always worked in a place where mostly women work. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Our profession is predominantly female. That's not to say that there are not males that are also going through the same thing. So if I'm very honest, when I first started writing it, I said, I want this to sound like your bestie, like your girlfriend talking to you. Like it was almost like, girl, let me tell you, that's how I came into it, thinking about it that way. But the more I wrote and the more I got to the end, I started realizing all you gotta do is open your eyes. It's really not just educators. It's really not just women. It's almost everybody. I was talking to other people and they were like, girl, I'm gonna buy this book for my cousin that's a nurse. She's doing the same thing.
mm,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, it's the buy day. Like sometimes we just don't turn it off. I had someone else say, I'm gonna get this for my pastor. The stories may be centered
mhm,
around, your life in
sure.
education, but they are very applicable to other professions. You know what I mean? There are
Yeah,
plenty of people in the world that are pouring into their jobs that they love,
yeah,
not taking care of themselves. It's so easy to do. It's so easy.
yeah.
But the
Definitely those
target
nurturing people. Yeah, people who nurture. Yeah.
people who take care of others. Yeah.
How do you feel like educators can recognize when that dedication has crossed the line to self-neglect or the warning signs that they need to, take care of themselves? They often ignore it.
Well, one of the things is excuse me, checking in with yourself. That's a lot of times we don't check in with ourselves. We kinda get into this autopilot of working, you know what I mean? This routine of just, "Okay, I wake up every day. I plan this lesson. I get my materials ready in the classroom. The kids come in. I'm in here. I'm doing this. I'm working all day. I'm pouring everything into them," right? Because through through throughout 8 hours of the day, 7, 8 hours, however long you have your students, that is a constant pour, and if we think about that, you really have to be full or overflowing to do that constantly, because 'cause we're not even just one-on-one, you know what I mean? It takes a lot when you have even your own children to maintain that, right? And so, I think that you have to build in a routine of checking in with yourself, because before you know it, it's just, I'm pouring out, I go home, oftentimes pouring into other people at home. I do the thing, I go to sleep, or God forbid, you're probably taking the work home with you too, or thinking about it. Sometimes I found myself at one point in time, I couldn't go through the store. I couldn't go to Target, Walmart, anywhere without thinking about my students and what was going on. There was no like clock out for real. You know what I mean? My brain was constantly flowing in that. If I saw something on TV, "Oh, that'll be a good clip to put in that lesson." I'm rolling down the aisles, I should get that for my classroom because then we can do this experiment. And you know what I mean? I'm just constantly thinking about that. But was I checking in with myself? I found that I was checking in more with the students. You know what I mean? How are
I
they feeling?
do.
Checking, let's have carpet time. Let's have carpet time and check in with our feelings. How are we feeling today? Girl, how are you feeling? Girl, you a mess. You're tired. Why are you sitting in that car lot for 15 minutes before you walk in that house? You are tired. You're tired. Yeah, check it. Look, passing out. I have, look, don't get me started because I'm not having flashbacks of passing out on my own from just being teacher tired in my bed with my whole school clothes on, my outfit from school. Got on a whole dress and done everything, just took off the heel, just laid in the bed and collapsed because I was that tired. Yeah.
I've done it too many times, too many times. Yeah, no, not no more, not no more. What would you say to the educator who feels like they cannot take a sick day because their classroom and their program will fall apart without them?
Say just do it because I have learned through, man, a couple of things. I ain't learned the first time. You know, you get these the red flags, the warning signs. I have
Mhm.
been sick before. Like seriously, I can think back to my first years of teaching. Oh my God, my first couple of years, you know, they say like you catch everything, like your immune system, like we have the best immune systems because
Mhm.
we're around all the germs all the time. But that first year, that's the year that you really might in the cooties. You just come out of college with the degree and you go, and then here are the little munchkins and rugrats. Oh, you want to hug off and wipe your noses and and they got crust and all this. Then you then you're coughing like, what's
Yeah.
going on? So that happened to me my first year actually, and I caught bronchitis, strep throat, pink eye. I had the flu too. It was like back to back to back, and I had it like out, like it was almost like without a warning. Like the doctor's like, you can't go back to school. And then I have time to do the lesson plans, and somebody had my class still stood. The
Yeah.
classroom was still there. Was it perfect and like I wanted it to be? No, but it was still there. Did I learn my lesson then on year one? No. I still felt like over there. I still felt, oh Lord, I gotta. I have a confession to make. This is a horrible confession. I have a confession. I worked until the the day before I had my child. I'm talking about whole big belly, about the birth, going into work. My doctor told me, don't, you still working? Don't go back to work. Guess who went back? Because I felt like I can't. I said, well, I got to eat lunch and tell him bye. And started having contractions on the way back to the heart. Guess what my heart had did 16
Yeah.
years ago? In the bed having contractions with a laptop in my lap doing lesson plans for the long-term sub. How crazy is that? How
It's
crazy is that?
crazy, but I bet a lot of people relate to
Crazy?
it. I bet a lot of people
Yeah.
relate to it.
I don't want them to relate to foolishness anymore. That was
Yeah.
my immature and foolishness. No, you don't get like if you think about it, girl, you about to have a baby. You need to calm down and be in your zen moment because you about to push out a
Mhm.
baby. have like but you know what I mean? You do not need to be thinking about 25 kids playtime and carpet time. Like, that's just crazy. That's like it like, think about it. If you compare, I'm like, "Girl, you was out of your mind," but I know we still do it even for the minor things. But what would I say to them? Don't do it. The
Don't do
world
it.
still stands. Don't do it. Just say no. Just say no. Just try it. Just don't do it one day. Just don't. Take the sick day. Imma put it Imma add something else. Take the vacation day. Go on that
All of them.
trip in the middle of the year. Go on the trip when it's not MLK holiday. Plan your trip when it's not Christmas break or spring break. Take the Monday and
I feel
Tuesday
like
off to extend you got
I feel like you've been following me. I feel like you've been following me.
somebody gonna hate me. This message ain't for everybody.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
For saying
Yes.
can't talk to my teachers. I don't want her. Why not?
There's a
Message
teacher
ain't for
that listens to our show.
not for every this message is for people who value themselves. This is for people who value others' wholeness and trust that they have professionals who can still perform and sometimes outperform. You can still be effective, even more effective by pouring into yourself. This is a message for those people. That's what it's for.
Yeah, 100%. So why do educators feel guilty saying no, leaving on time or taking a sick day or using their vacation time? Why do you think people feel guilty about that?
Think they feel guilty for a couple of reasons. The first thing that pops in my mind is similar to mom guilt. You know how sometimes we'll have like mom guilt, dad guilt, like a guilt of something we're not given when we're not present with our kids, even though it's may not even be anything bad. We just feel guilty for no reason. So it's not warranted, but the feelings are there, right? Like you just feel like you're supposed to be there because you've conditioned your brain to think that. The second thing is sometimes it depends on the environment we're in and the leaders that have cultivated the culture of the building you're in. Sometimes we have leaders that will make you feel guilty for not being there.
Yeah.
Listen, if the kids could not be there, we cannot be there, right? Kids absent, why I can't be absent? I'm a human, the kid's human. That's
Yeah.
how it's all about. Now, I'm not saying like you need to be taken off and just being willy nilly. The question is,
Sure.
are you still being effective? Is this a need? Take it. Well,
Yeah.
sometimes it's a want because I just want to be off because that's going to fill my cup. I'm taking an extra day.
Yeah.
But guess
Agreed.
what? When I come back, I'm more effective.
That is true. So, how can educators set boundaries without feeling rude, difficult, or uncommitted, especially when someone reacts negatively? Like you said, sometimes you may encounter leadership who isn't quite on board with you taking, what you need off.
That is not an easy answer. It's an easy
Hmm.
answer, but it's not as easy to absorb because it really all falls down or all boils down to self love. I got to love myself so much that I don't feel guilty. The more I pour into myself and the more I value myself, it's not that other people aren't valued. It's just that I value myself more. And I have to realize that valuing myself more is not selfish. I'm going to even say that again. If I value myself more, that is not selfish. But the world will sometimes tell us that you just loving yourself more than somebody else. You like sometimes even in my brain, like that might sound selfish or something. Who else is gonna love you more? No one. So I think it starts there with more self-love. And then I also start like you really gotta practice the no's or you have to practice the conversation of explaining to people, you know, hey, I know it looks like this, but this is what I need to fill my cup. This is what I need to balance things out. You know what, Principal so and so, I've been feeling a little bit overwhelmed. I've been feeling overwhelmed. And, I really need this day because it's going to make me feel, a little bit more
Yeah.
relaxed. So I would say number one, self-love. Number two, practicing the conversation. Three is just open communication. I think sometimes people don't understand because we haven't shared it with them. We have simply built a culture of just saying yes, yes, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
yes. Then we'll behind closed doors. I know they didn't ask me to do. Girl, they asked me to be behind the closed door. You really should be up front and say, yes. No, thank you so much for even thinking of me. But I don't think that, or not even I don't think, this is not the right role for me. This committee is not going to be conducive to what I have going on right now. But thank you so much for thinking of me. And let me know if you have any opportunities in the future. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes a no is not a bad thing.
Yeah. Absolutely not. Can you give us an example of what a healthy boundary sounds like when an educator is asked to stay late or give up a break?
Stay late as in the bell has rang.
Like,
I am
yeah.
contracted to leave at 3:30 and you want me, it all depends on what I'm staying late for, okay? So do
Okay.
you mean like, okay, can you give me an example? Because I wanna be real
Sure.
clear.
Well, you're in, yeah, so you're in a school, so you have contracts. Let's say you're talking to somebody who works at our early childhood program and they don't have a contract. They work at a, traditional early learning center.
Mhm.
And, so and so called out, a night person called out, you came in at 7 and now they want you to work till close.
Well, that's a decision of what I have going on. If I've already worked and I have other obligations and I don't feel in my spirit that I wanna stay late, I'm gonna communicate to you that, again, thank you so much for thinking of me and thinking that, staying late will get you trust me to stay late and get this job done. However, that's just simply not gonna work, for what I got going on.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about childcare directors or principals. How can they protect their own peace and boundaries? Because sometimes they're looked at a little bit differently than the educators who work in the classrooms. What would you say to
Mm.
that group?
You said childcare providers?
Yeah,
Can you repeat the question one more time? I just wanna make sure I
sure.
have.
Sure. So we talked a lot about teachers. Can we talk about the administrative side? What would you say to administrators? Because they also are very burnt out and tired and exhausted, especially with, staffing shortages or, teachers not able to come in and stuff. What would you say to that group of people? How can they balance their self-care too?
Yeah, everybody really needs it. Now I'm, like, thinking back to when I was in that role. Oh my goodness. That was a whole different type of stress, you know? That was a different type of stress.
I do
I
know.
wasn't around students. I wasn't around children a lot. I was around adults, and sometimes that can be a little bit harder, you know? That was dealing with parents more, that was dealing with teachers and their complaints or whatever they had going on, and then trying to maintain everything. I think one of the biggest things I always say, lead with a good relationship with others, communicating what those needs are. But I think that a lot of leaders don't pour into themselves too because they're so busy leading the pack. I just spoke with a leader a couple of weeks ago that I convinced to go on a vacation. I was like, there was one, I said, why don't we start off with something small? How about closing the laptop and not responding to emails? This particular leader I found was getting drained simply from the flow of emails. The emails are on the phone. When you open your laptop, you're going to your email first. And when people are communicating in that way, you literally can get emails all sorts of times of the day, right? Because it's whenever it's convenient for that person. And you will find yourself almost working 24/7 and being drained just from looking at a screen and constantly responding to the notifications of other people's needs. And a lot of times, those needs were not even urgent. They could be put in, I can deal with this later moment. But that's not what our emails do. They just go boom, boom, boom. And look, if someone in the tech industry is listening, they should. I wish they could be able to categorize them as the world is on fire right now. I gotta look at. She don't want a thing. She just complaining. I'll look at her later, or okay, this is a, you know what I mean. So I would definitely start there and not be afraid to also lead by example. We want our
Mhm.
students to be balanced, and you know what I mean? Look, think about this. So when I was working with pre-K students, it was important for us to have nap time, right? Like nap time, like you know what kids act like when they don't get their nap? Like they just need the rest, right? And I feel like and I know, like, in the classroom as a teacher, they want their nap time. Like, they love nap time too, because now everything's calm. At least the kids are quiet. They can have a mental break, even though they're maybe over there doing something. But I think the leaders also need rest more than
Yeah.
anything. They're not resting. At least that was from my perspective. So, step one, have the boundary of the emails. That's one. I talk about plenty of these in this book, though. But that has been one of the main ones I've noticed.
Yeah. I've seen some clever emails, especially during the summer, where like I'll email somebody and they have these very clever responses that automatically come to your box and it says, we respect our work life balance. And so we'll get back to you during the hours of this and this, or next week I'm on vacation, we'll get back to you next week. So good for those folks who have figured out how to set that up on
Yeah.
their email saying, I've got your email. So don't you have to email me 12 times and say, did you get it? This is your I got your email. Here's what I'm going to respond. So good for you if you're doing that. I've got a few of those during the summer months. All right. So as we start to wrap up, is there anything I didn't ask you that you would love to leave with the listening audience? Is there anything that you would like to leave with the listening audience that I didn't already ask you?
Yes. So there's several things I would like to leave with the listening audience. First of
Yeah.
all, I am so thankful that you're in this profession. The profession I mean, like I love this profession so much. And every time I can get with an educator or someone that takes care of kids, I'm just like, kudos to you. So thank you. We need more love on our babies. So thank you, thank you, thank you. The second thing I would say is rest and love on yourself. Rest and love on yourself and don't feel guilty about it. We have to lead by example. So if you are a leader, lead by example and pour into yourself and get that rest and come back even more joyful. If you are a teacher in the classroom, you want your kids to be joyful, and we can only project more of that if we have poured into ourselves. And the last thing I would say is I have tons of tips for everyone in this book, Teacher by Day, a no guilt guide to boundaries, balance, and bliss. But I'm happy that everyone is off to a good school year.
Yeah. So we will we'll leave the link for your book below. But before we wrap up, I want to do something a little bit fun, if you're game. We're going to play a little quick lightning round, just like off the top of your head, okay?
I love
One, ba-
this.
Good, yay! One boundary every educator needs.
Email, turn the emails off
The hardest word for
after you get off from work.
the hardest word for educators to say.
No,
The sign that it is time for rest.
you are very tired.
One thing educators should stop feeling guilty about.
Ooh, one thing educators should stop feeling about is being absent,
Okay. One thing directors should stop expecting from their employees.
working consistently late. I know that there are exceptions to that. So I would say consistently. Overtime work, consistent overtime.
Okay. The best way to protect your peace.
Love yourself.
A phrase that educators should stop saying.
This is going to be controversial.
Just do it.
My kids. Those ain't your kids. That's part of the problem. You can love them now, but
Um,
I got
Finish this sentence. My health is more important than blank.
anybody, period.
What does healthy leadership look like to you?
Loving yourself, respecting the people in the building enough to listen to their needs and following through, all with the purpose of helping our kids learn and grow.
Well, Dr. Ledford, thank you for joining us and reminding us that boundaries are not a rejection of our work. They are just a way of protecting our ability to continue doing meaningful work. And of course, being healthy and loving each other and making sure that we can do such a great job with the children. But we need to, again, pour into ourselves. We need to also take rest. So this conversation isn't about blaming ourselves for what we do to survive, right? It's about deciding what we are going to do differently to move forward. And allow yourself to be passionate without being depleted. You're allowed to be committed without constantly being available. And you are allowed to care deeply without carrying every problem alone. So thank you for tuning into the Childcare Directors Chair podcast. Until tomorrow, I'll see you then. And as always, have a great day. Thank you.
Before you go, ask yourself, what's one leadership lesson you'll put into action this week? Then share one takeaway with your leadership team, because Erica believes that great leaders don't just grow themselves, they help others grow too. Ready to keep growing? Join Erica inside the ECE Trailblazers Leadership Membership at childcaredirectorschair.com. Proudly sponsored by WatchMeGrow. Together, we believe leadership isn't a title, it's an action. And we'll save your chair for next time.